Welcome to today's Catholic Daily Readings from Christus Dominus Bread of Life. A reading from the book of Esther. Queen Esther, seized with mortal anguish, had recourse to the Lord. She lay prostrate upon the ground together with her handmaids from morning until evening, and said, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, blessed are you. Help me, who am alone and have no help but you, for I am taking my life in my hand. As a child, I used to hear from the books of my forefathers that you, O Lord, always free those who are pleasing to you. Now help me, who am alone and have no one but you, O Lord my God. And now come to help me, an orphan. Put in my mouth persuasive words in the presence of the lion, and turn his heart to hatred for our enemy, so that he and those who are in league with him may perish. Save us from the hand of our enemies. Turn our mourning into gladness and our sorrows into wholeness.
I call to you in my fear, with trembling voice and empty hands. When shadows closed around my path, you heard me where I stand. You spoke my name in silence. You strengthened what was weak. Lord, on the day I called for help, you answered me. You lifted up my weary soul and set me free. Your mercy stands through every storm. Your promise still remains. Lord, on the day I called for help, you answered me. You raised my heart from hidden depths. You breathed
reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and whoever seeks finds, and to anyone who knocks it will be opened. Or what man is there among you, who, if his son were to ask him for bread, would offer him a stone, or if he were to ask him for a fish, would offer him a snake? Therefore, if you, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your sons, how much more will your Father, who is in heaven, give good things to those who ask him? Therefore, all things whatsoever that you wish that men would do to you, do so also to them. For this is the law and the prophets." Join us for today's reflection. She was going to die. Queen Esther knew the law. Anyone who approached the king without being summoned would be executed. It did not matter that she was his wife. It did not matter that she was beautiful. The law applied to everyone, and she was about to break it. But her people were going to be slaughtered. Haman had manipulated the king into signing a decree authorizing the extermination of every Jew in the Persian Empire. Men, women, children, all of them. And Esther was the only one who could do anything about it. Her cousin Mordecai had sent word, "Do not imagine that because you are in the king's palace you alone of all the Jews will escape. If you remain silent now, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another source, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have come to royal position for such a time as this." For such a time as this, Esther had not chosen to be queen. She had been taken into the king's harem, selected for her beauty, elevated to a position she never sought. And now that position demanded everything from her. So she fasted, 3 days without food or water. She lay prostrate on the ground from morning until evening, and she prayed the prayer we heard today. "Help me who am alone and have no help but you, for I am taking my life in my hand." This is what real prayer looks like, not the polite requests we make when things are going fine, not the casual petitions we offer when we have backup plans. Esther had no backup plan. She was alone, her life was in her hand, and God was her only hope. "Come to help me, an orphan. Put in my mouth persuasive words in the presence of the lion. Turn his heart." She called the king a lion, because that is what he was, a predator who held absolute power over life and death, and she was about to walk into his presence uninvited and ask him to reverse a decree he had already signed. "Save us from the hand of our enemies. Turn our mourning into gladness and our sorrows into wholeness." Esther asked. She sought, she knocked, and the door opened. The king extended his scepter. She was spared, and through her courage and God's providence, the Jewish people were saved. Now listen to what Jesus says in the Gospel. "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you." These words sound easy until you realize what they demand. Asking requires admitting you cannot do it yourself. Seeking requires effort, movement, the willingness to go looking for what you need. Knocking requires persistence, standing at the door and refusing to leave until someone answers. Esther did all three. She asked God for help because she had no other option. She sought his face through fasting and prostration. She knocked on the door of the king's throne room, knowing it might be the last thing she ever did, and God answered. Jesus compares God to a human father. "If your son asks for bread, will you give him a stone? If he asks for a fish, will you give him a snake? If you, who are wicked, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give good things to those who ask him?" The argument is from lesser to greater. Human fathers, despite their selfishness and limitations, still want to give their children what they need. God is infinitely better than any human father. His generosity is beyond anything we can imagine, and he invites us to ask. But here is where most of us get stuck. We do not ask like Esther asked. We do not come to God with our lives in our hands. We come with our backup plans intact, our options open, our escape routes mapped. We ask God for help the way we might ask a neighbor for a cup of sugar. Nice if he says yes, no big deal if he says no. Esther could not pray that way. Her people were going to die. She was going to die. There was no plan B, and so she threw herself on the ground and begged. The psalm captures this perfectly. Lord, on the day I called for help, you answered me. When I called, you answered me. You built up strength within me. Notice the sequence. First the call, then the answer, then the strength. You do not get the strength before you make the call. You do not get the answer before you admit you need help. God responds to desperate prayer, not to casual requests made with one eye on the exit. Jesus ends this teaching with the golden rule: do to others whatever you would have them do to you. This is the law and the prophets. At first, this seems disconnected from the teaching on prayer, but look closer. Jesus has just told us that God gives good gifts to those who ask. Now he tells us to give good gifts to others. The generosity we receive from God is supposed to flow through us to the people around us. We ask of God, we give to others. The prayer that opens us to receive is supposed to open us to give. Esther received deliverance, and she used that deliverance to save her people. The gift did not stop with her. It flowed through her to everyone who would have died without her courage. What are you holding back from God? What prayer have you been afraid to pray because the answer might demand too much? What door have you been afraid to knock on because you might actually have to walk through it? Esther was terrified. She fasted and wept and lay on the ground, but she went anyway. She asked anyway. She knocked on the lion's door anyway, and the lion extended his scepter. Ask, seek, knock. Your Father is waiting to answer.